Welcome to the In My Opinion show. I'm Henry Hatter, your host, and I have a very wonderful, erudite guest today. Majied, I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, Mr. Hatter, I think we've been knowing each other since 1987 or earlier. I'm just an average citizen, entrepreneur, citizen of Flint, and business person.
Yeah, I know I've known you and compared you for many years to some of my friends who stayed around home and complained about everything wasn't right and they couldn't do this or that. But you've always been engaging and challenging things, pushing away boundaries and barriers. So as you have traveled around the country, which I believe that you've been doing, what have you learned?
Oh, that the country is inclusive. It is inclusive, and that if we work together, we have to work together with everyone to be successful. No person is an island. No group is an island. So we must come together and work together if we intend to be successful.
Okay. Now, here I want to ask you. First of all, since you were coherent in not only public policy but also politics, American politics. I'm going to try to get to American politics as well. But first of all, I want to start with the water crisis here, which is part of the public policy matters that people are concerned about in this city. Some residents and critics do say that the crisis was caused by the highest level, in the highest levels of government.
Okay.
That means the governor.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Well, of course, it wasn't caused by the governor at all. The governor is responsible for overseeing the state, and the crisis came about as a result of a lot of missteps by different people and different agencies. So the governor was not directly responsible, nor do I think that he supported any wrongdoing or any missteps by any of the agencies, and also the city of Flint itself.
Well, you know, if you stop and think about what's being heard, if you overhear what people are saying right now in the city of Flint, there's some confusion about what the water crisis is.
Right.
And how extensive it is.
Right.
As you know, when a crisis first began, individual people on the street brought this whole matter to fruition.
Okay.
It was a man on the street who was not skilled or well trained in water science.
Right.
And though they were pushing the rope, so to speak. Do you think that that was a probability for people to get it wrong when the experts came in and the pressure?
Yeah. See, what I understood here lately about what the deal was, but people were just reacting to the reaction that were brought about, maybe the rashes on certain people, the children, and they were concerned about some bacteria that may or may not be present without actually testing it right away, because the earliest complaint came in August of 2014. We switched over in April. So people didn't actually trust the Flint water from the beginning, and when they had the reaction that were coming about 4 months later without it being tested, of course, maybe, it wasn't scientifically based.
Yeah. How do you know that the rashes were caused by the water?
They don't know.
Were the rashes from toxic materials or was it from bacteria? There's two different things.
It wasn't tested at that time, so no one knows. It was just a reaction to the Flint being switched over to the Flint River water.
Okay, chlorine may give you a rash.
Okay.
But chlorine is added to the water to do what?
to kill the
kill the
bacteria.
bacteria.
That's true.
You cannot tolerate water with bacteria in it.
Right.
Some of the bacteria could be life-threatening, you know,
Right.
and other bacteria may be just mild diarrhea for you or
Right.
whatever. And until you see the test results from some study,
Right.
you can't make any kind of assessment on the water until a test is done by experts.
That's true.
And then they hired Virginia Tech to come in and check the water. But Virginia Tech found that the water was meeting state and national regulatory standards. Okay? We had one incident in August of 2014 where the TTMs, trihalomethanes, were out of compliance. And they were at about 25 parts per million, and they couldn't exceed 15. I
Right.
believe that was the only one out of compliance.
Okay.
Okay, but how we got involved in all the water, all the lead and stuff, didn't register then, because not until Virginia Tech came in and they had checked the parameters around the city of Flint from the delivery system
Okay.
around the city of Flint, and they didn't find any non-compliance. You remember that?
Yeah.
Not until they tested the service lines that went into the homes. Now, my question to you is, will the public ever get it right? Will the hospitals and the regulatory people who are driving the comments ever get it right that the service lines were the source of that lead poisoning?
Yeah, they came to that conclusion, and according to the New York Times on March the 12th, this Viola group, they reported that the test did meet the federal standards, but they did not report specifically on the lead levels. This was that Virginia Tech group.
Yes.
Yeah, they did not test the lead levels. Now, we know that the pipes itself caused the lead. We did know that after the fact, but I don't think they were abreast of that before.
You say they were not aware of the lead in the water, and they didn't find the lead until they went tested the service line. They went into the sinks in the homes, and these had antiquated pipes on them, line lead, or some of the fixtures had line lead. And therein lies the problem, and maybe some people don't follow the discussion here. There's a complete difference between the water that was in the distribution system from the water plant, and the water that was in the service line going into sinks for babies to drink and for mothers to use and for to take a bath. And my question to you: are we ever going to correct that? What the problem is?
I think they have, but a lot of people, they're right now, the emotions are high. People, they have damages from using the water, and right now is still a lot of anger from the people suffering from those.
Are they suffering from a perception or from actual physical reaction, chemical or physical reaction from treatment?
I don't know about from treatment, but the actual lead itself, from the service lines that you just spoke about, that was the major problem.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to establish, that it was a service line.
It's a service line.
And let me ask you, if that's true here in Flint, is that likely to be true in Saginaw, Bay City?
As well as you know, because that's your area, you know that the service lines are a problem throughout the country.
Yes, that is, now from the local code is a code that governs installation of piping throughout the world. And they require the replacement of public utilities like water piping, stuff like that, infrastructure, every 50 years. And the service lines in homes haven't been replaced. But yet, when the EPA passed I mean, when the government passed the Clean Water Act back in 1973,
Right.
they then changed all of this because the new regulation required water discharges for lead to be no more than 5 parts per trillion
Okay.
into the receiving streams or into the POTW, the public-owned treatment works. What's your response on that?
Well, again, when you talked about the Clean Water Act of '73, which talked about using non-lead piping, that and our infrastructure has not been updated.
Yeah.
Okay, there lies the problem for the whole country.
You know, and I might add to that. Remember in 1973, we had a very ambitious plan to clean up the water, to make it pristine clean.
Yeah.
Do you recall what that process was called?
I don't recall what the process
Yeah, it was called zero discharge. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Zero discharge. Well, we tried experimenting, removing every constituent that was introduced into the water through industries to cooking and all of the other uses that we use domestically for water. We tried to remove that stuff.
Right.
And we could not, at the best, we could not. We could only reach certain thresholds.
Okay.
And then this provided the numerical standards for water.
Okay.
We had to meet the numerical standards. 5 parts per trillion for lead, nickel, chromium, cadmium, all of those metals that are a detriment to human beings. But we also had to, but then Congress passed the water quality standards in 1983.
Okay.
And then we had to meet the biological standards. So the biological standards were where they used the discharge from treatment plants into a vessel that had fish in it. And the fish had to survive 96 hours subjected to this flow of effluence. The effluence is what leaves the treatment plant.
Okay.
If the fish are killed by that process, we had to raise our standards.
Okay.
Okay? Now, all of those standards are out there for the EPA to use today. And I've never seen any evidence that there was any indication that that the employees would ever want to poison people as is alleged.
No.
Or they didn't, they were incompetent in what they were doing. I think that everything that could be done, the regulators were trained to do it. Even in Flint, in this case, when they called the water poison, which I thought was really, they need to clean up that word so that you have people in the professional industry that will work along with the politicians.
Right. They were calling it poison as just a reaction to to what was going on, and poison might have been a strong word, but I think that came from maybe some of the feelings that the government and the EPA and the Department of Environmental Quality, people were maybe feeling disenfranchised because these agencies may have not been listening and quick to react as to what was going on. And then it did have the appearance also too that they were kind of like backing away from it, not being proactive, is what a lot of people would like. And then when you look at that and combine it with the makeup of the city not being the constituency of the governor, they felt disenfranchised and felt it may have been more a purposeful act. When in fact, I don't think it was a purposeful act at all.
Well, that just means that people were led by other people who didn't have the knowledge to do that. We weren't surrounded by a professional community.
Right.
We didn't. Nobody else. Communities around Flint did not overreact to this.
Right. Yeah, they didn't overreact, but at the same time, they didn't suffer the ills that certain people in the city, because the whole city wasn't affected.
No, the whole city was not.
Just certain segments were affected,
Yeah.
and of course, if you had friends and family that were affected, your emotions might have ran high at that time.
Now, consider the financial manager.
Yes.
The governor says, "Well, I think I'm going to." It looks as though, and this is I'm theorizing.
Okay. All right.
Since this city is basically composed of black elected leadership and mostly black population, and they believe in certain things that would be reflective of what the financial manager believes in.
Sure.
So I'm going to appoint a black manager, even though. And I think that they will work with him to resolve this problem. And the problem to be resolved was to balance the budget. Right? Nothing wrong with that.
That's true.
I have to do it in my household.
That's right.
You have to do it.
That's right.
And you can't dare the government from balancing the budget.
Right.
It will collapse if you don't.
That's right.
So, do you think the governor did the right thing, or did he overreact when he appointed a Democrat into that position? And I say no. That's always been my position.
No, he didn't, because that's part of the city charter. When you become insolvent, someone else.
No, but I'm talking about he appointed
Darnell Early.
Yeah. When he appointed Darnell Early. If he had appointed a Republican, the Republican would have had more access to political funding and cooperation in the whole system of government, whereas Darnell Early may have been driven by pressures from his political parties to do certain things. Or maybe he wanted to prove something to show that he was as good as anybody else. But when you do that, do the American people ever forgive you if you passed policies in which you endangered public health and safety?
No, they don't, and they won't.
Explain.
Well, if the people feel as though you neglected them and passed policies that was a detriment to their health purposely, no, your political career you're finished, and they will never forgive you for that.
So we can't carry this conversation. The conversation is dead right there. We can't take that any further.
No further.
It doesn't matter what you look like, what your political career is, how much money you have, what color you are, what you believe in. The people will never forgive you.
You're finished.
Yeah, you're done. Okay. Now, do you think that the government is unbridled when safety is compromised and we don't react to it? Government, and I think this is what you were trying to say earlier. You said that the people got mad because it did not appear to them that government was reacting fast enough.
Right.
Is that a fair argument?
That's true.
And that was what you were talking about, right? And you still hold to that belief, right?
Yes. The appearances yes. The appearances, people have to feel as though they're being listened to, and they have to feel like their issues are going to be addressed.
Now, I want to talk about the city of Flint as a favorable city for Black Americans.
Okay.
Now, as you know, Flint is a home of General Motors Corporation.
That's right.
And back in 1941, they began hiring a lot of black people.
That's right.
Out of the South. Some were educated, but most of them were just laborers, right? Yeah. They came into the plants to help the war effort, right?
Yes.
To build tanks, planes, and guns, right?
That's right.
Now, when they did come into the city of Flint, and this is they received the same wages as did the whites. And now stop and think about that. Nobody ever thinks about that.
That's true.
And the whites were considered in the top 10% of the highest wage earners in the world. And the unions will tell you that. General Motors will tell you that. Major universities, major operations throughout the Michigan
That's right.
will tell you that they had the highest paid people
Workers.
in the world.
That's right.
Okay? Now, what did that say about black Americans?
As far as
the people who were hired by these companies.
well, you're right. The General Motors and Ford.
Say it out loud so they're here.
Well, General Motors and Ford, they recruited the African Americans in the South, partly because they were excellent workers.
Well,
and they came in and paid them a fair wage equal to everyone else. And Flint, Michigan was number 1 and number 2 as far as wage earners per capita in the world.
Yeah. They introduced black Americans
Right.
to the middle class way back then. And we never heard about it until 70 years later.
That's
because
right.
everybody considered themselves poor.
That's right.
Underfoot.
That's right.
Underfoot
Yes.
and underrepresented. But we had all of the ingredients that everybody else had in this country.
That's correct.
But we just didn't use it.
Some did, a lot did. Some people took advantage of it, and they've their family right now is in a good position. Some people didn't, and that's another conversation that we could go on and on about.
Well, my point is, should this be a point of pride for Americans and black Americans who lived in the city of Flint to defend the city of Flint, to defend it for what it meant to them, to make the city a great city again, to fight back for it?
They have to. You have to.
Because it made us. It allowed us to put our kids through college in many cases.
Own property and do all the things that we couldn't have done before the Great Migration to this area. Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at education. We've looked at income,
Right.
where there's parity.
Right.
We've had parity for a long time.
For a long time.
But we just refuse to recognize it. That's because the erudite people, the black people, they caved in to the ones who said that they were poor. And I never heard of poor black Americans I suppose in the 70s, at least in the 70s. Because everybody who wanted a job could get one.
Get a job.
Would you believe that?
Oh, that's true. It's a true statement.
And not only that, spouses worked for public education.
That's
they
right.
worked for hospitals.
That's true.
They worked for businesses and stuff like that. So they had an extra income coming into the planet.
That's good.
That maximized their income so it would compete with whites.
That's true.
Would you agree?
Oh, definitely.
Or am I off?
No, you're 100% on.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask you, now I want to fast forward to politics. I may come back to it.
Okay.
Grace.
All right.
If the election were held today, who would you vote for?
Well, I know I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm partial to Bernie Sanders, and actually, if it came down between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, I know I wouldn't vote for Hillary. I probably would lean toward Donald Trump.
You lean that way.
Yeah, I would lean that way.
But you're not sure.
Well, I'm quite sure he's the better of the two candidates. I try to vote for the candidate that's best. I'm not a party person. I don't vote a straight ticket. I vote for the candidate. I think Trump is, I look at who's not in line with Trump, and he's not in line with the establishment. And so I kind of like Trump on that, even though he's been abrasive on some of his comments. But that's just, and we all have been abrasive on some comments at some time, whether we make them publicly or not. So I don't hold him in contempt because of some of his comments his inflammatory comments that he's made. I think he's actually a much better candidate than what we have as in Hillary Clinton.
Tell us definitively contrast Hillary and Donald Trump on any one given issue, what would make one better than the other?
Well, the reason why I like Donald Trump is a lot better because Miss Clinton is actually, she's taken a lot of money from a lot of people that steer the political system. She's actually bought and paid for. As far as Donald Trump, of course, he has his own money, so he doesn't have to bend and do the bidding of any special interest group. That makes him a freer candidate than her. And she's actually tied to some of her policies, foreign policy. I don't like her foreign policies at all. And I don't know of Donald Trump's foreign policy because he's not really articulated that well to me, so I don't know his stand on that. But as far as him being his ideal on some immigration, I really like. I'm Muslim, but he said that we need to ban a lot of Muslims coming in. I agree with that. I like all people.
What kind of Muslim?
Well,
what kind of immigration? No, no, he doesn't. He makes a definitive statement.
Well, he wants to. He said, I heard him say all Muslims, but I think he was referring at one time to the Syrian Muslims.
Yeah.
And he's right about that. We don't know who they are. They haven't been vetted. And even though the turmoil is in the country.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I do agree with that. And I do agree with we have too many of Mexican Americans that came to this country.
It's illegal. It's illegal immigrations that he's against. He didn't say he was against all immigration.
I agree with that too.
He said illegal.
But I don't agree that they characterize a lot of them as being criminals because a lot of Mexicans are very
hard-working people.
Hard-working, great people.
And we know that to be true.
Yes.
Mexican Americans are probably some of the hardest working people in this country.
Some of the best people that I know.
And I know that for a fact.
Right.
And I support them.
Right.
I support immigration when we bring in people who are educated and who come here to mix and blend with Americans, not come here and isolate themselves into small communities and absorb resources and don't feed back into the system.
And the Mexicans do not do that.
Yeah.
That's right.
But there are those that do.
Those are in every group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that now the African Americans, there's a difference between African Americans and Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
African Americans come from their countries, stay in America in their own groups, and they learn to absorb and excel. They understand the Constitution. They make money to support their families and stuff like that. Well, Majied, I have to go. I wish we could talk more about that, but I'm sorry I can't. You've been a great
Thank you,
guest today. And now, folks, we must bring this show to a close. Until next time, stay focused.